After the whole 2 years since the previous season, Season 4 finally came to give us a fresh rein to the thirsty light novel readers. After the previous 3 seasons adapted the entire first-year arc, Season 4 of Classroom Elite will adapt the second-year arc of the light novel. However, since there are a lot of changes in production, it will be wise for you to prepare if there are a lot of things you don't understand in Season 4, especially if you only watch the anime. For example, if we take a look at the Season 4 teaser, it seems like they have finally decided to increase the number of students in Class D. The number of students was always 40 in the light novel, but somehow 15 of them never showed up in the first season. It was probably due to budget, but it was honestly a mistake to reduce the number of students in the early season, because it ended up creating a few weird scenarios in the anime that don't exist in the light novel, such as the planet exam. The fact that Season 4 will finally bring back those 15 unfortunate students could mean that the studio has great hope for the future of this franchise, so they fixed their mistake to avoid unnecessary trouble for the future adaptation. I doubt the anime will explain where those 15 students came from, so that change is something you just need to accept, and enjoy the anime without thinking about it too much. The new promotional video also gives us the layout of the new Class D students. As you can see, this layout is not the same as the previous season, with Ayanokoji and Horikita no longer together becoming the most noticeable difference. There is actually a side story that explains this change, but it most likely wouldn't make it to the adaptation, so the first episode most likely would present us with the new layout without any more explanation. The thing you need to know about the seat change is that they have a chance to sit wherever they want on the first day of the second year, but they need to win their wanted spot in an auction against their fellow classmates. Ayanokoji's group originally wanted to sit close to each other, but Ayanokoji lost the auction against Ika, who wanted to sit behind Kushida, so Ayanokoji ended up securing his spot near the door, far away from his group of friends. The change in the number of students and also where they sit will definitely make a lot of watchers confused, but this change actually isn't really important for the story as a whole. You will keep seeing Horikita and Ayanokoji together even if they are no longer neighbors, so once you adapt to the change, Season 4 will just be another season to enjoy. However, there are still a few content you need to understand before you watch Season 4, because the previous 3 seasons don't really explain the plot too well, or completely skip the important part. For example, the whole premise of the second year is about the secret White Room students who were sent to expel Ayanokoji. It was adapted to Season 3, but that was not a really good explanation. Back in the summer break, Ayanokoji was having a talk with Tsukishiro regarding Ayanokoji's life in ANHS. Tsukishiro asked Ayanokoji to withdraw from school, which Ayanokoji simply refused, so Tsukishiro proposed quite a simple game for Ayanokoji. In Ayanokoji's second year, there will be one or maybe a few White Room students disguised among the freshmen. Ayanokoji's job is to find out their identity, and if he manages to guess correctly, Tsukishiro will voluntarily leave the school. But even if Ayanokoji fails, there will be no consequence, so the whole bet between Ayanokoji and Tsukishiro actually only benefits Ayanokoji. This bet will be the main topic for the entire Season 4, because not only does Tsukishiro not put a time limit, the White Room students also work so quietly that it's almost impossible to point out which one is the White Room student. Their conversation in spring break also revealed that Ayanokoji is part of the 4th generation White Room, and his generation is called the Devil Generation by the others, so it's just natural that the 5th generation White Room students wouldn't confront him directly. Other than the bet between Ayanokoji and Tsukishiro, the bet between Horikita and Ayanokoji is also quite important for the first few episodes of Season 4. Season 3 actually mentions their bet, but that was a really disappointing adaptation to the point you really need to know what happened from this video. To put it simply, Horikita feels disappointed that Ayanokoji lost in the final special exam. She admits that it was a remarkable chess play from both of them, but after Ayanokoji brags that no one in the whole school could defeat him even if he's not serious, his loss indeed sounds like a not-so-funny punchline. Anyway, Horikita finally challenged Ayanokoji. If she manages to get a higher score on the exam, Ayanokoji needs to stop hiding his ability, because an ability that lost against Horikita is not worth hiding. Ayanokoji surprisingly accepted her challenge, and even added some rules that Horikita could pick the exam subject and only tell Ayanokoji before the exam, but if Ayanokoji could score higher than her, Horikita would need to join the student council. This whole competition between Ayanokoji and Horikita is actually very important, because for the entire first-year arc, Horikita has always been doubting Ayanokoji, and even thinking that she could beat him at some point, so this little competition is their way to clear any doubt between them. Needless to say, Ayanokoji's condition for Horikita to join the student council will become important later, but that is the second episode's job to explain. Those two competitions involving Ayanokoji are pretty much everything you need to know before you watch the first episode of Season 4. However, there will be a few things that potentially give you a headache if you decide to watch further. Since Episode 2 will adapt Volume 2 of the second-year arc, there will be a few character relationships you need to know so you can understand the story. For example, it will be better if you understand the whole relationship between Katsuragi and Sakayanagi. Ever since Sakayanagi won the paper shuffle exam in Season 2, Katsuragi started to lose his allies one by one until Yahiko became the only one remaining. However, after Yahiko got expelled, Katsuragi ended up alone and became an outcast in his own class. We already saw Sakayanagi holding Katsuragi hostage back in the final special exam, but even though he looks like he already gave up, you really need to remember that Katsuragi hates Sakayanagi. And Sakayanagi's decision to not expel Katsuragi back in the class bowl exam will come and bite her really hard. The relationship between Katsuragi and Ryuen will also be fleshed out again in Season 4. So far the only interaction they had was just during the island and cruise exam, but that interaction surprisingly will pave a way for a long fruitful cooperation between them in Season 4. You probably remember about their contract in the island exam, where Class A students need to send 20,000 private points to Ryuen every month. This contract almost got terminated twice when Ryuen planned to withdraw, and when Sakayanagi planned to expel Katsuragi, but this contract still surviving up to this day in the anime. This contract will play a supporting role in either episode 4 or 5, so it's better to keep it in mind. For a note, Ryuen's current position in his class is that he has already become class leader once again. His success against Ichinose in the final special exam gives him the recognition he needs, and even though quite a lot of people still hate him, at least they already admit that Ryuen is their only chance to reach Class A, so they are willing to obey his order to a certain degree. Another relationship that will take a bigger spotlight in Season 4 is the relationship between Ika and Shinohara. The first 3 seasons almost skipped all of their interaction, and only mentioned it once or twice, but they actually have quite a lot going on behind their backs. To put it simply, it almost confirmed that they liked each other, but just refused to admit it in front of anyone. They had a Christmas dinner back in the first year, and Ika almost confessed during spring break if it were not for Ayanokoji staring at him, so it's just a matter of time before Ika confess again in Season 4. Their relationship is actually interesting to follow, but since the anime skipped most of it, it will be quite confusing to see them acting that way in Season 4. That's why you need to remember that their current relationship is Ika still waiting for a good moment to confess, while Shinohara is quite annoyed, because Ika keeps calling her ugly in every chance he gets. I think that is pretty much all you need to remember before you watch Season 4. There are some minor details such as class building and tablets, but that doesn't seem to be important enough to confuse the watchers. However, a few important plots from previous seasons might be better to forget rather than to keep being questioned. The whole plot involving Michan Hirata and Koenji seems to be important in Season 3, but it will have zero impact on Season 4. The same thing could be said about Matsushita and Kanzaki. Matsushita had been hyped up quite a lot in the last episode of Season 3, but for your own good, it will be better if you just treat her as a regular NPC. As for Kanzaki, while he will have some scenes in Season 4, I strongly suggest you just forget about his entire existence. It's fine if you have some expectations for certain characters, but I hope that expectations won't ruin your judgment on how good Classroom Elite Anime Season 4 will be.